Want to learn more about what's in the adopted FY23 operating and capital budget? Stay tuned to find out. The FY23 budget continues Mayor Kenney's priorities of health equity for all, quality education for all, a safer and more just Philadelphia, inclusive growth and thriving neighborhoods, and a diverse, inclusive, efficient, and effective government. Operating budget. The city divides its budget into two main types, operating and capital. Let's start with talking about our operating budget. The operating budget funds day-to-day services and programs like trash collection and building inspections. Before we can discuss how we plan to spend your money, we must first share what our projected revenues will be. For the general fund, the city is estimated to receive a total of $5.7 billion in FY23 revenues. The largest portion of our revenues, about $4 billion or 70% of all revenues, comes from local taxes, like the wage tax. Other funding comes from fines and fees, aid from state and federal governments, and revenue from other city funds. Revenue highlights. Here are some of the highlights of the FY23 revenues. ARP, American Rescue Plan. The $335 million in ARP funds will help restart Philadelphia's economy. Expanding tax relief and wage tax reductions. Help homeowners save on their property tax bill by increasing the homestead exemption from $45,000 to $80,000. Reducing the wage tax for residents and non-residents. The residential rate will be reduced over the next 2 years to 3.79% from the current 3.8398%, and the non-resident rate will be reduced to 3.44% from the current 3.4481%. These are the lowest wage tax rates in Philadelphia since 1976. Supporting businesses by reducing the net income portion of the business income receipts tax from 6.2% to 5.99%. Expenditures. For the general fund, the city plans to spend a total of $5.8 billion in FY23. Over 60% of the FY23 expenditures go toward funding payroll and benefits for the city's dedicated employees, who deliver the core services that support the city's residents, businesses, and visitors with service like healthcare, trash collection, and public safety. Expenditures highlights. The City of Philadelphia held over 20 community engagement sessions with 500 plus residents and city employees to understand the needs and preference of Philadelphians and use those insights to inform the FY23 budget. The FY23 budget includes new spending in public safety, public spaces, streets and sanitation, and racial equity to reflect the priorities and preferences shared by Philadelphians. Here are some of the highlights of the FY23 General Fund expenditures. More than $208 million to reduce and prevent violence, $9.8 million for stable 5-day services at the Free Library, a $7.8 million increase for parks and recreation, which includes funding for weekend hours at recreation centers with a gym, $29.1 million for the Housing Trust Fund for affordable housing, $4 million in new spending to combat illegal dumping, and $1 million for lighting improvements, $390 million investment in education for PHL Pre-K, community schools, the school district, CCP, the Octavius Cotto Scholarship, and adult education, in addition to $1.4 billion in local tax revenues that support the School District of Philadelphia. The school district has a separate operating capital budget. The $1.7 billion total investment in education is the biggest use of local tax dollars and includes money from the city's general fund. Capital budget. Now let's discuss the capital budget. The capital budget allows the City of Philadelphia to make long-term investments in physical things like buildings, roads and infrastructure, and in major information technology systems that help run the city. In fiscal year 2023, the City of Philadelphia will allocate $202.8 million to make improvements to community facilities like parks and libraries. Other public buildings, like offices and fire stations, major tools needed to deliver city services like IT systems and trash trucks, and major infrastructure investments. Capital budget highlights. Here are some of the investment highlights of the FY23 capital budget. $27 million for street resurfacing and reconstruction and ADA ramps, $20 million for FDR Park to support the construction of the Welcome Center, playground construction, and design costs, over $13 million for purchase of new vehicles for fire, streets, and other departments, $2.5 million for the free library to make improvements to central and branch libraries around the city. The fiscal year 2023 budget focuses on providing core services, maintaining the city's long-term fiscal health, reducing racial disparities, and advancing equitable outcomes for all Philadelphians. To learn more about the City of Philadelphia's operating and capital budgets, please visit phila.gov/finance.